Good night, good night. I'm in my room, as you see. And since the issue of the bicycle is important, I should continue to speak about it. Because yes, there is still much to say. I will try to limit my the scope to the historical significance of the issue and to its place in the Israeli culture and in the international culture and even interplanetary culture. And I'll try not to speak about the actual physics behind it. Like, I mean, the robots. Even though, I mean, as I said many times, I approach this subject from the robotic, from the scientific direction, which, and as I said many times, I mean, I repeat it again because it's kind of both surprising and both like a very, I mean, I would say limiting factor that I truly sense that, I mean, that either that I'm the first one who actually conduct research on the matter, which is, if it's the case, it's amazing. I don't understand how it's even possible, because I mean, I'm not a scientist at all. I have no background in biology. I know nothing, and I'm under arrest. Like, all of this research is done like in unbelievably like crude conditions, without money at all. Just, I mean, simple microscope that I once bought, and I mean, like that I literally take scrap from the garbage. I mean, I don't say it like out of vanity that I mean, look how much I achieved, because I really think that I achieved a lot. But I don't understand how is it that many other people did not already like had research. Like, I mean, you have this material for so many decades. Like, I mean, both my material and the other material. So something here, I missed something. I don't understand something. Or maybe you did all the research, but it was like in the classified laboratories. But certainly, I mean, the people, almost anyone, I mean, anyone, not almost anyone that I meet in Israel, and like, I mean, almost all of them are, well, I mean, the mythology of the bicycle is like deeply imbued in their mentality, but they don't care at all. They know nothing about these robots. They don't even care. Even though I think it's immensely interesting. I mean, and I mean, I'm sure that any one of you who watch the videos, you can. I mean, this is incredible stuff. It's like, it's alien science. It's amazing. You can learn so much from it. But I will try to limit, like, maybe some other time we'll speak about it. But though, and although I think that, I mean, if you watch the, like, if you are like, I'm kind of if you are like, I mean, one of my scientific viewers, like, I mean, you've watched my scientific videos and like you follow the development of my thought, and like, I mean, the way that I create I propose new theories and debunk some of them, but some others, like, I mean, are verified, or at least, I mean, getting some support. I mean, if you follow me in the last 6 or 7 months, I think you already, I mean, you can do it just the way that I do. I mean, you maybe even better than me. You can, like, I mean, do the analysis that is needed, because it's an issue of analysis, not like, I mean, not like I would say, like, I mean, like joining different sources, like, of information, and like, because we have only one source, which is myself. Like, I mean, presumably maybe you have other like secret sources, but I mean the only public source, or I mean theoretically public, I mean my internet connection is of course monitored, but is myself. So it's the issue is analysis. Like, I mean, to think about all the theories that, I mean, that, and all the evidence that we've gathered, and to see how they can explain both the issue of both like the phenomenon of the bicycle, and also give it some kind of, like, I mean, I would say reasoning, like, I mean, theology. But let's keep it aside. So I try to speak about the bicycle issue from from the Israeli perspective, even though I do not share it, because I'm in this issue I'm not part of the Israeli culture. And I should say that, I mean, it's difficult for me to understand their approach to the issue. I mean, I find it very difficult to even, like, because I understand that it's not just that, I mean, you can say, I mean, why do you make too much of it? I mean, you know that you're dealing with barbarian, like, mad dogs. Like, I mean, they're barbarian dogs. Like, I mean, why do you philosophize too much about like their approach and their philosophy? I mean, they are assholes, and I mean, they just are hungry and they want to subjugate other people. I mean, this is correct, but it doesn't mean that it is true. Yes, but with it, even the most barbarian people, I mean, they have like organizing ideas that organize their life, and this could be formulated, and presumably it should have been like much more easier for me to actually do it, because I live here since I was born, and all the people that I know are somehow related to the intelligence community. But the problem is that I was never part of it, and I only started to understand it when an approach from a completely different direction that presumably none of them actually care about, which is the scientific direction. And another, like, it is the whole thing I see. I mean, this kind of like a hardship to understand it from the Israeli point of view. I mean, it reminds me of something that I spoke about in the past. I don't know if any of you listened or remember, but I've said that I have also of divinations. It's kind of like, I mean, visions, but it's not like visions that, I mean, that you see, like, I mean, something in front of you, like, it's not like a movie, like, I mean, that you go to a movie theater. My visions are completely different in nature, and they are done through through all sorts of mechanisms, but one of the main mechanisms is the mechanism of reenactment, and I've discussed it many times in the past. Reenactment means that you are acting like in a situation. This is done, I mean, mostly like, I mean, when I walk. That's why one of the reasons that I like to walk, like to long. I mean, now I'm under arrest, I cannot do it, but I like long walks. So I mean, when you walk, I mean, both like in the streets or in or alone in the nature. I mean, both are part of this thing. Like, I mean, that you walk. I mean, and you think about all sorts of things, and you pray to God. Like, I mean, you meditate, and sometimes you find yourself, like, I mean, in kind of like situation where you feel that you are like an actor, like you're somebody in kind of like, I mean, in kind of like a historical like drama, and like there may be other people that I mean you imagine them as like in all sort of like acting. It's kind of like, I mean, a drama, but it's like that it's put on like things that happen like to you in real life, and you understand that. And you need to be sensitive to it, but if after like some experience with it, you understand that this is like a reenactment, that you are part of a reenactment, and that other people don't even need to know about it at all. And it doesn't even necessarily look like weird, like from there. It could look weird, but it doesn't even necessarily need to look like peculiar. Maybe like from the other people's perspective, it's just part of life. I mean, so we need to be very sensitive about it. Like, I mean, because I mean, it's not like a vision that, I mean, you dream, or like you close your eyes and you see like a film or something like that. You act like in this world, I mean, with people that live here right now, and you do like actual things right now, and possibly the things that you do actually completely not only rational, but also, I mean, fit the circumstances. Like, I mean, but I mean, it's that's why you need to be sensitive about it, that you understand that. At the same time, it's also reenactment of some kind of like, I mean, something that you should know from history that happens in the past. Maybe to you, like as like in another like, I mean, reenactment in like reincarnation, or maybe just it happened in the past to some that not to any. I mean, and this is interesting. Like, God tells you this thing, you should think about it because it relates to the history of your mission. And I've spoken about that in last couple of years. But I also said, I don't know if you remember, I said it. I mean, that there are all sorts of these kind of like visions, and mostly like, I mean, 90% of the time I speak about like the visions that relates to like the 70s and the 80s, 1970s, 1980s. This is like the most this is a very, I mean, reoccurring subject in my videos, like, and for several years now. The things that happened in the 1970s, 1980s. But sometimes there are also issues. I mean, but I understood that this is actually like that. This is like that. It's part of the things. Like, I mean, that the whole, like we say, interplanetary drama is actually much and more like older than that. And there are also things that happened in the 50s and the 60s, and these are the most horrible ones. And probably even, and also before that in the 30s, and this is even more like, these are the worst ones. And I mean, these are less like in the political way and more like in the personal, like personal more like things that, I mean, happen to people. And it's all, it's like, I mean, I remember that maybe it was like, I mean, 14 months ago or so, I mean, it happened to me in Tel Aviv that like, I kind of like, I mean, complained to God. I told God, like, I cried to God. I told him, I have enough like my own like troubles. Like, I mean, my life, I have like, my life is riddled with. Actually, since then it only got much worse. But even back in a year ago, it was already like a very, very difficult life. I told God, I mean, I have enough problems like that belong to here and now. Like, I mean, to this time and this place, like to real problem with real people. I mean, that are powerful and I'm powerless and they hunt me. Like, I have so much calamities in my own life. So why do I also need like to reenact and to have visions of like of people that suffered immensely, like in the 1950s or the 1940s? Like, I mean, I understand that they suffered immensely and I cry, like, I mean, but I have enough of my own. It's not like, I mean, that I live like in a timeless situation where, like, I mean, kind of like a time traveler that, like, I mean, that gets glimpses to all sort of like other times and places. I have my own time and my own place, and the time, and it's horrible. Like, I mean, with real people that are in Israel that are pieces of shit. So as that, why do I need it? Like, why do I also need, like, I mean, on top of that, like, to get these memories, like, of people that I don't know, and they probably all like died long ago, and I mean, it's so much pain, like so much. These are the worst, and it doesn't give you any information regarding the political aspect of the situation, and I don't. Like, I have very little understanding of the political aspect of the situation. I mean, before the 1970s, even though it was very, I mean, there is much to be said about it. I mean, and a ton of stuff to be said about it, but I just don't know. I mean, it's very difficult for me. Most of like what I've done from the historical perspective during the last couple of years relates to the 1970s and 1980s. But there are all sorts of like visions and the reenactments, but they are much more faint of things that happened in the far past, and these are almost not relevant at all to any of you, like my supposed listeners. So I don't think that I ever spoken about these issues, like not only in the YouTube, but way before that, like in my own even in my private Evernote account, or like in any other, like in Twitter, because these are like things that are that they belong to the past. Like, I mean, but to really distant, but not that distant past. I mean, and the interesting thing is that things that, I mean, I can understand, or like, I mean, I can relate, and then like like be like part of the reenactment and part of and gain understanding of situation that somehow, I mean, that somehow are can be interpreted through the lens of the Jewish culture, and also to some extent to the Christian culture. This was true even before I said it like very prominently that yes, I changed, like I now consider myself Protestant Christian. Even before that, because I mean, because even before that, I mean, it was much easier for me, like relatively easier to me to understand situations that relate heavily to the Christian like history and thought, because they have so much in common with Judaism, and because I was like and because like even before I like converted to Christianity, I had knowledge about Christianity. Like, it wasn't the first time I read the New Testament, or like, I mean, I already had like knowledge to it, and so it's not like, I mean, like just kind of like the first time I've seen the course or something like that. This was a long process, and even when like many years ago, I already like I mean, I was like interested. It was an interesting issue, and like to just read both the text and like read them to learn about like the the fathers of the church and things like that. So, and most of all, it's just the fact that I mean, yes, I mean, the Christianity and Judaism share a lot. Of course. So, it's easy like to understand situations that are in some way part of the historically Jewish culture and also the Christian culture. And to some extent, to a lesser extent, but some extent, it's also true regarding things that, like, I would say, reenactments or visions that are related to the Roman culture. Even though I'm not like an expert at all, like in history of Roman, like the Republic or the Empire, not at all. I know very little. I mean, I should have learned more about it because it's very important and interesting. So, but I've learned a little bit about it. But yes, I mean, not only because I've learned about it, but because it's still something that it was so important, and so a lot of so they kind of left a huge footprint in the mentality of like every person that likes to learn and is like to have a huge a very wide range of education. So in a way that the Romans are still with us, like in some way. So you can somehow relate to things that happened during the Roman times. Also including things that happened in Judea, in the Provincia de Judea. As you know. But there is another type of visions that are extremely difficult for me to understand, and there are so and sometimes since you're so not related to it that you don't even get the sensibility to actually identify it. Because as I said, these are not like movies. It's not like movies that they come to you in a dream, or that supposedly like at least through and literal reading of Acts, of the book of Acts, like the Christian book of Acts. That for Paulus, just they saw Paulus was he was like a rabbinical Jew, like a Pharisee. Paul, so it was just, and so he's he was a student of Gamliel, like Rabban Gamliel as a Ken, Rabban Gamliel the elder, and he was in a mission of, I think, of Rabban Gamliel the elder, and along the way just saw an angel, kind of vision, terrified. So it's not like that. It happens to you in your life, in your own life, and you need sensitivity to even understand that it happens. So there is one type that is so peculiar to me and unrelatable that I almost cannot understand that this is happening, and even when it's happening, which is very, very rare, I cannot make almost any sense of it. It just gives me all sorts of question marks. And this is the Egyptian visions, because I have some of these as well, but they are very rare, and I think they are rare because I cannot understand them. I cannot sense that when they happen, and when I do, it's so unrelatable, because not only because I don't have I almost have no information at all regarding the ancient Egyptian culture, which spent many thousands of years and was immensely complicated and important, and I understand that it's part of my own history, but personal history, but I cannot understand it because it's so alien to me. It's just so alien, and I dare to say, maybe not, but maybe it's not true, but I dare to say that even if I had much more knowledge regarding the Egyptian culture, ancient culture, even moreover, even if I was an Egyptologist, an academy person of the academy that studies this Egyptology, as a profession, I would say that my sense is that many of the things that much of these the content of these visions would not be something that I can relate to, even with, because I'm not sure that this translates well to it relates to the mentality of the people, and I'm not sure at all that this mentality is captured through historical and archaeological scholarship that, of course, I mean, is mostly focused like on first text or hieroglyph, and second like material evidence that are very important. But there is also the issue of like mentality, and this is incredibly alien, very alien to me, and I and even terrifying. But and so I don't really understand what's happening. And a while ago I understood that yes, this kind of like a reenactment and vision, and it relates to my past, and this relates to the ancient Egypt. Now ancient Egypt was, it spent like so many thousands of years, like, you know, as many people always used to say. Now there was the Cleopatra documentary. I haven't watched it, but so many people. I mean, it's kind of like things that people say a lot, but just for perspective. So it should be said, even though it's kind of like a cliche, but it's true that Cleopatra is more like it's closer in time to like Burj Khalifa than the Pyramid of Giza, which is true. I mean, and maybe not only in time, but also maybe even in culture, because she was, she was like, she was. No, they made a whole big deal out of it now. I mean, you know, humans and their stupid like quarrels when children are electrocuted in their sleep and they don't move an arm or a leg to save them. These humans are scumbags. And at the same time, they are having like so much like discussions on like what color is the actor in the Cleopatra TV show. Like, instead of like, stop the cruelty that takes place in Israel right now. Anyways, she was, she wasn't black. She was like she was a Greek, like of a very known Greek heritage, and maybe she was even closer in culture, not only in time, to the people that now, like, work in Burj Khalifa or Burj Dubai, than she was close, like in mentality, to the people that actually built or, lived close to the Great Pyramid of Giza. I would dare to say that maybe even that is true. How ridiculous it might sound, because this was, the Egyptians had like, they had their culture for many thousands of years, and it's like, and you cannot like, generalize probably anything about them, but I would say that I cannot understand like their mentality, and that it was different than, it was essentially different than these of like the Romans and the Jews and like the Christians. All of them. Like, something else. And that they had like it's what I can say. Like very strongly is that they had religion which was very important to them, incredibly important to them. It's not like just, you know, like people will weird people with faces of animals and like or like mummies of cats that you don't understand. Like, is it like fun, or like what is it? Like, it's, they took the religion very extremely seriously, and like it was imbued in their mentality. It's like they lived the religion. Maybe it should be, arguably they were more religious than any of us, like, or any of like much more religious, maybe, arguably I don't know, but I would say that maybe they were even like more religion on average, and like, you know, any kind of Jews that lived after them, and any kind, maybe even most kinds of like Christians or Muslims, and even like, and more than like the Romans were, famously were, didn't take like their gods as seriously as like the Greeks, but they also did take them, to some extent they did take them seriously. But in the Egyptians, really, they were religious, like a very religious people. And many of these things like, are related to their religion, and I cannot understand it at all. So this was interesting, but kind of like a deviation, from the subject. I just want to say that so the issue of the how Israelis are, the place of the bicycle in the mentality of the Israelis today is for me is like, I mean, the Egyptian visions. Like, I mean, it's something like that. I mean, I it's so alien to me. I mean, even though, I mean, I live right here, right now, and I live among them, and it's happening right now, not in ancient Egypt. It happens right. Maybe it also happened in. Let me correct myself. It happened for certain in ancient Egypt, but it happened. But I mean, it's happening right now, and I cannot understand it. I try to understand it not through the scientific lens, because I understand that this is something that probably only I am even aware of. Like, and people just don't care. It's something else, and yes, they are barbarians and scumbags, but it's part of their mentality. They have to speak about it for so much. I mean, their coffee and their tea. I mean, and they barely actually get it. Like, I mean, it's like sex, like for them. That, I mean, they speak about it so much, and also, I mean, the sex, and specifically anal sex, but sex in general is like a huge part of like their metaphor, like world of metaphors. And you can say that this is true to all humans, or to all, like, but it's not. It's true to junior high school, like, boys, and maybe even also girls. I studied like in separate like classes of boys and girls, so I'm not sure like how do girls like act like in these ages, but certainly to boys like in junior high. But I mean, in Israel it's I mean, everyone stays like permanently in junior high until they die, as you understand. Certainly people of the intelligence community, and I've spoken about it quite a bit, about the juvenile like infantilism and like an infantile behavior, and like I've really spoken about it a lot. I really like the video that I call Never Neverland, because it's just that. Maybe I don't know, if you don't have access, maybe I will repost it somehow, because this is, I think, one of my most successful videos, like 3 or 4 months ago. Never Neverland it is called because it's titled. It's not very long, like maybe 35 minutes, and it explains, I think, very well like what I think about Israeli culture. Anyway, I mean, so it's like sex. I mean, they only like to speak about it. They never do it. Like, some of them actually never do it at all, and many never do it, and many just do it very rarely. But I mean, it's like they always speak about it. Sex. I mean, anal sex, and it's like a metaphor with like so many, like, I mean, you know, similes and like memes, and like, but they don't really do it. So to some extent, this is also true about like the bicycle. I mean, most of them, they rarely actually take place. Like, I mean, for most of them, it doesn't. It's something like that. It's very rare, and most of them actually almost never get this tea or coffee. Like, very rarely, very rarely. And now, I mean, they don't get it at all because there is a shortage. And I mean, I created the shortage, but I mean, like in the last 2 years, so they get even less now. Like, but they like to speak. They speak about it so much, and like, it's such a great part of their, like, I mean, their secret world, and like their secret institution, their special institution, the tea, the coffee, the bicycle, and so, I mean, yes, it's part of their psychology, and I can't understand it completely. I try to understand it, but I can't completely understand it. Of course, I mean, they like to speak about it and think about it because it relates to, presumably, to controlling other people, and they are, I mean, they are the scum of the earth, and they are sexually deprived. They're, like, I mean, both like deprived and like, I mean, and like, I mean, perverts. So, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, in this kind of control is. You don't need to be like a Freud or Jung to understand that it's a replacement to sex, to like sexual, like, I mean, to sexual activity. Like, instead of that, I mean, they have the power fantasies of controlling other person, even though mostly it never really happens. But it's kind of like a power fantasy to them that is a replacement for sex, the bicycle. Now, it should be said that earlier in the history of Israel, it was actually like that. that I mean it was used much more, like in much more than than now, actually, like the bicycle mechanism, and in many times it was actually a replacement for sex. Like I mean, mostly between men and women that couldn't have sex because it was found very quickly that it is very dangerous to actually have sex between males from Homo sapiens males and female Venusians. It was discovered, like I mean, initially they did it as well, as you can understand, but it was discovered that it's dangerous. And in any case, it wasn't like a main focus like from the beginning, because right from the beginning, I mean, the Jews sent all the pedophiles and homosexuals to Palestine because they wanted to get rid of them. So right from the beginning, I mean, it's like more than 100 years old that I mean that many of in the intelligence sector, in the defense sector, that were always very important are homosexuals and pedophiles. It's not a new issue. I would say it's like 140 years old, this issue. It's very not new, I would say. So right from the beginning, it was not really. They weren't really that interested in the woman. Actually, they were interested in the men, and that's in another issue. It's still true, and and they still try to rape them and they sexually like abuse them, and it's not only true, it's relevant. This is my life, and it was already like that 100 years ago. But as far as women go, yes, I mean, in the past, it was very common that for the bicycle mechanism to replace sexual activity. It should be said that sometimes, I mean, it was, to some extent, the Venusian females actually enjoyed it because, I mean, they didn't have, like, they enjoyed it as a replacement because they didn't have sex. And so for both, like, them, like, the Venusian females and the homosexual Homo sapiens males, this served as kind of like a replacement to sex, and they had some kind of like enjoyment from it, like both sides. This was common like in 50s and 60s actually. It's much less common today because there was. So wait a second. I will speak about why it's different today. Another thing that should be said, I mean, regarding my last video. So people can ask, I mean, so you said that you control like the direction of the bicycle. So why do you agree to be like in any side of the bicycle? And presumably, why do you agree to be like in the like the people can ride you, like I mean, and like according to like the definition, like I mean, there are many ways that you can interpret ride. Like it could be just sex, but it could be many other ways. And as I said, intelligence communities has all sorts of ways to control people. But from the bicycle point of view, it means that I mean you are, I mean there is like I mean the rider, which is like I mean which uses his or her own body as the voodoo doll, and there is the person that people ride, like, or the ridden, like the horse, I would say, or maybe I mean, not horse is not a good metaphor. Maybe like bicycle. I mean, mostly I mean only one is connected like to the pedals, right? Is it the yes, most probably it's the front one, certainly, yes, because yes, it's the front one. Yes, it's the front one. That's why you need to break with the first with the like the back one. So I mean there will not be like I mean kind of so it's the front one. So I mean, the front wheel is the one that I mean uses themselves as a voodoo doll, and the back wheel is the one that is suffering from this. Not it's not only for suffering, because as I said in one of the in the Odomental video today, maybe you will listen. I don't know. This is also used for intelligence operations. So it's not only like I mean used to torture or for kind of like I mean super divine sexual replacement activity. It's also used for in operational intelligence operations. And I really I don't want to repeat myself, because I mean I just watched this video today. It's one of the videos of the Ornamental Monk. I've watched all of the 5, and I mean I hope you listened. I mean, but I mean I can't repeat myself again. But I mean it's just I mean this could be used for intelligence operations, because I mean no chip is needed, no cochlear chips or eye contact lenses. I mean it's just I mean like a natural way to transmit information. And it's also a way to, I mean, to control, to assess, to assert your control or dominance inside the family, like between 2 spouses. That's why it was such a security risk when these robots actually served as spouses to important people like American presidents, but not only American presidents, but also to like important people, because I mean they were then I mean much more prone to their control and to their influence in much stronger way than other people that didn't know about the situation expected. So there is also all sorts of manifestation to this bicycle. But I mean you can say I mean, why should you ever want to be like the one that I mean sits like in the one that I mean that like I mean in the back the second wheel, that I mean people will be able to like to do voodoo magic and like and you will suffer from it. So I would say this. This is much more complicated question than it seems in the beginning. Yes, I control the direction, but I control much more than the direction. The bicycle could also be, I mean, separated to parts. Like for example, you can separate the bicycle mechanism to eyes, to ears, to like electrical electrical current that flows through the body, which is something that I mean you might find it like I mean kind of like I mean why is it just a category in itself. But again, I cannot like forget the knowledge that I have of the neurons, that I mean they are so I mean that are I mean if you were like I mean yeah, if you followed me like with all the scientific issue, the issue of electricity is incredibly important, and I've had so many like experimentation with the electricity. So yes, these robots I mean they are powered by electricity, and it's like it's a huge subject like I mean in the research of the neuron. So it's not that surprise actually when you know the robots, that I mean why electricity is that important in this aspect. So it's like a category of itself, like electricity. So and there are also categories, so you can actually control different categories, and you can actually say that that one like that the eyes can be used like in this direction, but actually the ears are in the opposite direction. And in order to explain why this is, it's very complicated, but I'll try to speak about it just in a minute. But before that, I will just say that in order to understand the current situation of the bicycle, you need to understand the past. What happened, mostly in the 70s and the 80s, but even before that. But it's not the first chapter. I didn't know anything about it until very recently. Nobody told me anything, because I'm reincarnation. I'm not a Venusian male. Everyone thinks of me as a Venusian male, or many other things that I'm like a Venusian female that change their sex to male, because this is really common. As I said, this is what I call the wizards. The phenomenon, it's a real thing, and it's a phenomenon. Like, I mean, Venusian females that change their sex to male, like transgenders, and they now, like, I mean, it's kind of their own category, and they have, like, I mean, their own, like, I mean, problems, and like, it's a big issue. Like, I mean, and I call it the wizard. I spoke about it in the past. I hope you have access to this. Like, it's a very big issue. Like the wizards, like in the Israeli society, it's very common. It's part of like Israeli society. Like, I mean, the issue that the phenomenon of the wizards. It's just I call it actually wizard because, I mean, it's just, I mean, interpretation of, like, I mean, all the, like, I mean, Cheshefal or Techayun, which is kind of like a biblical phrase, and like, I mean, it should that, I mean, it deals with witches. I mean, and there is a question of what exactly is a witch. So, I mean, it's according to some interpreters, like classical, like, I mean, interpreters or commentators, like, I mean, so the witch is like, I mean, so because the question is what exactly is a witch? Because, I mean, what does it even mean? Like, I mean, witches were common in the ancient world, but I mean, is it in the Torah? According to the Torah, it's not really clear what does it mean. Like, I mean, because there aren't witches. Like, I mean, the closest things there is like, they have, like, I mean, the Endor, like, I mean, sort of a witch, but it's not. I mean, that this is not. It's not really exactly a witch. Like, it's more like, I mean, kind of like a prophet, like, I mean, idol prophet. But so I mean, yeah, some say that the witch is actually a male that changed their sex to female. Because in ancient times, including like in times of when people wrote the Torah, some people believe that it is theoretically possible to do it. Now, they didn't speak about eunuchs, like the people that cut their dicks. This was common like all over the world, and certainly was known in the time like when they written the Torah, they wrote the Torah, and I mean, and they're actually it's I mean, this is the issue is mentioned several times in the Bible. Because it was part, I mean, it's disgusting, but it was part of the ancient world and all over the place. So it's not that they believe that there is something different, that qualitatively different, that I mean, that it is possible not just by cutting the dick, but by like other mechanism that perhaps, I mean, they could not explain, but maybe like future or past generation could theoretically explain that men couldn't change their sex to female. It's up to you, the listener, to. I mean, it's not the issue, the subject of this video, but think whatever you want. I mean, if the thought of these ancient people, like, if you even care about it, like, I mean, fits the modern like understanding of transgenderism. I mean, whatever. I mean, think whatever you want. But anyway, that's what they think. Like, some of the people thought, like, in the ancient world, that presumably there is a way to do it, which is not like just like, I mean, the cutting the dick and the balls, but also to do something perhaps, like, I mean, in kind of like an unexplainable way, that, I mean, they will change the sex, like, of a person, person will change their sex, like, from man to female, and then, I mean, this female, this is the witch. This is according, like, in the biblical text, when they say witch, this is what they mean. And also the opposite, but I mean, that they believe that the opposite can also be true. That I mean, the female can also change in parallel process themselves to males, and like if this creature would have called like a wizard, and of course the biblical writer was extremely like hostile to her. I mean, literally, it's written that they should be killed. Not exactly, I mean, actually not exactly that, because according to the text itself, it's written not a chayun, which could be interpreted as that, I mean, you should not kill this creature, but you should not, it could be said that, I mean, arguably you could say that, because it's not exactly that it's said that they should kill them, it could be interpreted as that you do not create such creatures, like, I mean, that, like, the command is not to kill those creatures, but, I mean, do not be part of the process of the creation of such things. Anyway, I've taken like the word wizard from this all, like, I mean, ancient like, I mean, biblical exegesis like an anecdote. But so these wizards actually live in Israel. I mean, for a long time now. It's like it's a thing, like it's a real thing. Like I mean, the Venusian females they change to male. It's a thing. So people thought about me as like either this or just like or Venusian male, and both are incorrect because I'm neither. So most of the things that like people try to do to me as part of the bicycle just don't work at all. The great majority of my torture, I mean, I've spoken about my torture for so long. First of all, it's state terrorism. They take my children, I mean, they unlawfully arrest me, unlawfully take my children from me. I mean, they make me be fired from their job because it's a totalitarian state. More than everything, it's just, I mean, forget the whole, like, I mean, bicycles and whatever and Shabak Mossad. It's just, I mean, the state against you. It's a prosecution by the state. This is like 90% of my problem is just the fact that I'm a citizen without any liberties and the state is crucifying me. Now, but if you think about like torture that's coming from like people of the Shabak or the intelligence community, I would say that only a small part of it actually lies on the bicycle mechanism, very small one. Most of it is, but I'm not immune to torture. But I mean, most of the torture that they do to me is actually electrocuting me, not with bicycle mechanism, but I mean, they actually electrocute me with, I mean, they bug my car, or I don't have a car, or my car, or my room, or my bed, or they do sound attacks like you've just heard that right now. I mean, with the rubber band man, the sound attacks. So these are all sort of like, I mean, the physical attacks, I mean, invisible physical attacks that are nothing to do, they have nothing to do with the bicycle. It's physical attack. And also many mental attacks, like, I mean, that belongs to the fact that, I mean, I'm like I'm like under arrest, and like every people, they want, like, they can shout, like, I mean, noise is is extremely common weapon in the Israeli intelligence, like, I mean, because they're barbarian, calling them barbarian. So when people shout at you for all long and puts like in sirens like all day and all night, it's not a bicycle. It's just cruel terrorism of the people of the state against you. But yes, I do feel the effect of the bicycle to a much lesser extent than they would have wanted. That's why it's not a major issue. I haven't spoken about it like in a major way until now, because it's not a big source of my torture. It could have been a huge source of my torture if it worked like the same way that they think. But I'm not that creature. I'm something else. But it's not that it doesn't work at all. I do feel its effect, but much lower than they would have wanted. And I should say that I can also I control also the magnitude of the effect, not only the direction. And as I said, I can change the effect, like to be like different between I mean, like in higher resolution. Like, I mean, the eyes could be in this like a direction of magnitude of the bicycle, and then like the ears will be that kind. So I can also change that. And this is important because this was already done by my predecessor, and he had his own reasons. And it's you cannot really understand why it was done the way it was set, like probably in the early 80s by my predecessor, without understanding like the political situation. And this is like it's complicated because it was set like in specific way, and you can understand it, like, I mean, because it's already not like, it's already like fine-tuned, like the way it is right now. Even if the Israelis do not understand it, it's already fine-tuned, like to specific, like the bicycle is already fine-tuned in a specific way. So before I change it, and I already did change it even today, I needed like to understand why it's like that, and to begin with, like what happened actually. I didn't try to change it before I understood like why was it like that? Why my predecessor set it for a specific way, and why now we need to do it differently. So, I mean, you need to understand history in order to understand why it should be said this way or another. Now, another very important issue that I should say is that the Israeli just take that like, as kind of like, as a random voodoo stuff that can be used to abuse all sort of people. But I do not see, my approach to everything is that there is kind of like a natural state that you need to understand. That, whatever takes place in Israel and also in the rest of this world with regard to the bicycle is, of course, it's a perversion of the natural state of affairs. It's incredibly sinful and disgusting. So, and of course that it relies on a mechanism that certainly is strongly related to procreation. Maybe it should be said very clearly. Some Israelis, later, and not all the only Israelis, American as well, like later, in 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, suggested that presumably the Venusians have they live in a world like Geten, from left, the left hand of darkness for Sura Le Guin. It's actually a great novel, but it deals with people that have no fixed sexuality and they can change. They have the concept of male and female and bisexual reproduction, but they can change from male to female throughout their life. And it's very peculiar because it's kind of like a rarity. It's a unique world in a universe that contains many other worlds that are more similar to Earth in its respect. So some people suggested that maybe Venus is like Geten, like this world. This is ridiculous. This is unbelievably cruel. And they wanted to justify all sorts of supposedly progressive, human ideas from the late 20th century. First of all, can it be this? Why is it progressive to electrocute my daughters when they are 2 years old in their bed? Why is it progressive that I will suffer all my life by the hand of predators? No, it's not progressive, and you are all going to die, especially in the West and especially in the United States. What's so progressive about what you do to us? But more to the point, of course they have females and males in Venus, and they have sex, and that's how they have babies. There is no end to the cruelty of humans. First of all, they committed genocide on the males. This happened actually long ago, about 100 years ago. They didn't kill all the males, but they killed many of them. It was a genocide. And after that, they subjugated the males and the females and took them as slaves. And after that, they caused they forced the female, some of the females to change in appearance to change their appearance to that of males for all sorts of reasons. And it wasn't enough. By the end of the 20th century, they had the audacity to say that maybe these creatures are, they're asexual, or that they have fluid sexuality, or maybe they don't reproduce at all, bisexual, sexual relationship. And this is how more disgusting can you be? How more cruel can you be? How more sinful can you be, humans? To commit a genocide and to enslave people and to force them to change their sex, and then to say that they don't have sexuality at all. Of course they have sexuality. They have females and males, and they reproduce by having sexual relationship. What is this stupidity? What is this cruelty? So it should be said that I do not suggest that the natural function of the bicycle is only related to reproduction, because I do not know enough about Venusian culture. I don't know nothing. I was never set my foot in Venus. I know nothing about their culture, and I'm sure that they have a culture, even if it's Paleolithic. I'm surely they have, or at least they had until the Israelis genocide them, kill them all. But I need to understand, and I try to understand the nature for a long time. It was part of my journey to understand the nature of Venusians, and also to understand my own nature of the cherubs, because we are a third species. Because I believe in nature, and I believe in God, and I believe in the natural state of affairs, and it's very it's difficult to understand what the natural state of affairs, because People don't speak to you about it because it takes place in another planet, like more than one planet. But so it was very difficult to me, and to this day I have still so many questions on this regard. But the fact that the natural state of affair is not completely known to me doesn't mean that it does not exist. Certainly it exists, and I should say that maybe this kind of thing is actually that maybe, but the bicycle is actually a mechanism that is as other, like, I mean, that is not only used for reproduction, like as part of like a reproduction activity, but it certainly is certainly it's related to sexual and familial relationship. Certainly so. And using it like in an interplanetary context is extremely abuse of nature, and like it's an evident sin. And of course that it relates to so many other sins and cruelties up to this day. So there is a natural like function to this, to the thing. By the way, even if the Venusians are like, I mean, in your eyes, robots, it doesn't mean a thing. They have the psychology of humans, and they have, like, I mean, they have a design, just like humans have a design, and they have nature, like humans have nature, and they have culture, etc., etc. So it doesn't, I don't care if you call them robot or if you call me robot. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter. And I should also say that, again, I'm not a Venusian, so there is another layer of complexity here, because I am like another, like, I'm like the king of the bicycles, okay? But I mean, say one thing, maybe you cannot ask yourself, what can be, like, I mean, a natural function of the bicycle, of the bicycle, I mean, from natural perspective that relates to sexual relationship, but also to family life. Like, I mean, what does mean? What I mean, the male, like, I mean, do you suggest that the male can there is like a natural mechanism that a male can torture, like, I mean, the female, like something like that? So no, I don't think so. Even though it should be said that everyone that know the Venusians know that they have like their like, I mean, the females, like, and they strongly have that, like, the affinity towards, like, I mean, what humans today call BDSM, like to be, like, I mean, in a sexual relationship, that they are, like, I mean, submissive. But this is just an anecdote, and it's also very common in Homo sapiens females, so it's not something that peculiar. But no, it's completely not the issue. The issue is probably something that belongs to the past of Venus. I don't know if it's still true today, because I don't know if there is anything in Venus today. The Israelis committed genocide over there, and I mean, maybe there is nothing there. Maybe they're just nothing. Maybe they could destroy the world. And it was a very difficult war to begin with, without many people in Paleolithic, and it was a very sparsely populated war to begin with. And I mean, so much, like, I mean, like ice sheets and like tundra, like, I mean, frozen tundra and oceans. So to begin with, it was like a very extreme and like very long night. It was and so much clouds. To begin with, it was so difficult, and they just destroyed the world. So maybe, I mean, the whole thing that I'm going to say right now, or to suggest, belongs to the past, and can no longer be found in Venus. But perhaps in the past, and maybe even today, there was a huge discrepancy, like, between the number of males and females. And this also happened, like, in nature, in all sorts of, like, aspects, all sorts of, like, I mean, situations. It happens. Actually, even in humans, it's not the same. Actually, there are more males than females. But I mean, throughout history, even though it was always true that, I mean, more baby males are born than females, I mean, there were in general much more females than men, because males, like, all over history, like to kill each other and to die in accidents and to die in hard work and things like that. And it's true to this day. So, I mean, it's kind of like fixed itself, like that, to be 50-50, like, I mean. But, I mean, perhaps, at least during sometimes in the Venusian history, males were just not that common for all sorts of reasons. And maybe I suggested that in the past, just in kind of like an hypothesis, but it could be in many other things. This hypothesis is just something that's kind of like to demonstrate the power of the mechanism of the bicycle mechanism, and it's to give it kind of like a natural context, because in the way that the Israelis use it, and also like the cooperators in the United States and other places, is there's just they take it out completely, like out of context, out of nature, and create like a kind of like obscenity that only serves their their divine purposes and cruelty and disregard to any kind of other life forms, and they deserve to die. The humans are disgusting creatures. But I wanted to suggest like one thing that perhaps just to open your mind to the natural to the natural phenomenon, like to the natural function of this phenomenon, which is very complicated. And I suggested that if it's actually true, and we have other like, I didn't just like propose it like it's completely theoretical, like from theoretical perspective. But I have other like clues that it was actually the situation in the past, and certainly it became the situation after the Israelis slaughtered the men, ate the males. So the fact was it was the situation after the Israeli genocide, but maybe in the past also, by all sorts of like circumstances, there were much more males than females, and there was a great competition, like over the males, and they found themselves in a difficult situation. I know what to think about, but in a dangerous situation, and I can understand it because to some extent it's also true to myself. Like I found myself in my own life here, not in Venus, but in Israel, in a situation where I am like a very a rare male and coveted by many females, but it did not materialize the way that you think. Like if you just think about it just like a second, maybe you can think, so maybe he's having fun, like having sex with a different like woman every night, and like like kind of like a rock star, a life of a rock star. It was never my life. Actually, never wanted it to be my life. Even though I'm attracted to women and I had sex with several women throughout my life, but this was never even close to be my life. Life was completely different for me, especially when this situation materialized. So I can understand, from like my own experience, why actually when you kind of like you don't use your fantasies too much, but you actually look at it like from the rational point of view of real people that live in a real life in a very difficult world and like it's difficult circumstances. It might be if actually this is the case that males find themselves in great like like that they are a minority, that they are like in great demand from the female perspective, like not only for like for children, like for procreation, but also for sex, because the female emotions, they are sexual creatures, they want sex as well. I can understand why in like the actual world, not in like kind of a fantasy world, like a porn or something that can taken from the erotic literature or porn picture, but in an actual world, this can make the life of males extremely dangerous and put them in extreme situation, and this could actually turns. Paradoxically, it can create a situation when the male is afraid to have sex at all with the woman because he's always under a threat to his life, and I can understand it from my own experience. So certainly I can understand how this can happen in kind of like a frozen Paleolithic world. That this is so much harsher than our own. I can understand how this happens. If it to some extent happened to me in this presumably progressive and very convenient technological world, it certainly can happen to males that live in such a cruel like world and difficult world. and they can find themselves in great danger, because essentially what's going to happen in such situation is that these males, they will be, they will have multiple females that will, and the relationship with the female will be like that of like King Arthur and his knights. In plus sex. That presumably was not part of the things that they did, like, in the Round Table, but who knows? But, it's like, because, he would expect them to protect his life, because this is Paleolithic world, it's difficult world, hunter-gatherer worlds, the world, and there is no, like, national states, there is no, like, no social, like, protection, social layer, like, protective layer. Then, like, it's very easily can deteriorate your situation, or maybe it's always the situation that, like, the other, like the knights, like, the knights of of another King Arthur, which are also all females and have sex with him, that they will want to kill the other king. Just for their own, like, for material gain, and also for in order to survive, and also from their own offspring will have more chance to survive. This is very cool world, long nights, long and very, very cold, very long nights, very cold. So in such situations, basically all the females will be knights, like they will be warriors, and the relationship with the male will be that of, like, between, like, the Lancelot and Gawain, and I don't know their names. I didn't like the movie Excalibur. It's so highly regarded, but it made me puke, like, all those, like, all this going, like, with the, like, attitude, what are they even doing? Like, anyway, so like, what are they even doing? But something like that. But it's like, the Round Table plus sex. Like, their first, like, objective is to protect his life, which is exactly, by the way, it's exactly the opposite of what happened in Israel. That, the females actually, they sacrifice the life of their own males, which is completely insane. But I will elaborate it maybe in like, I want to stop this video because it's too long, and I don't like too long videos. But I have so much more thing to say, so I'll continue maybe today, or maybe tomorrow. But I will just say that I can understand why a situation arises that actually, there is, like, a polygamy, but it's also in the same time kind of like a situation of like a small time king, like, like a petty king, and petty, petty, like, Round Table with knights, and they want to protect his life because he's always in danger from the other knights, female knights. And it requires their protection. And they don't have technology, at least not the way that humans have. And it can help immensely if, for example, they can actually, like, sense that he's in danger. For example, if they can maybe, like, hear, like, what he hears, or see what he sees, this can greatly enhance their ability to actually protect him. Of course, it's unimaginable that they will use the bicycle mechanism in order to hurt the male. It's unimaginable, and this is exactly what happened in Israel. And this is, like, it is unimaginable. And so, anti-evolutionary, anti-natural, anti-ethical doesn't make sense, and it only materialized in Israel because of the perversion of the bicycle mechanism, and it's like abused by the state to an unimaginable cruelty like way, and so to the fact that that actually the female use it against the males. They're coming to hunt them and even to kill them, even though it makes no sense for so many reasons. But yes, I will elaborate on a separate video because I need to rest a bit because I'm losing my voice, so I need to rest a bit. But yes, after a long time that I thought about it, like I try to understand what can be the natural, a reasoning behind it. So it's something like that. That sometimes the sexual relationship also, they require some kind of they are not symmetrical and they require protection. That specifically in Venus that the females would be kind of like knights. That the first primary objective is that they protect the life of the king. Because he's like, and maybe and maybe this also maybe this also contribute immensely to kind of a paranoia state of mind of the males, which is common. Like in such situation that you're always afraid that that you're going to die like in assassination, because it is in actuality it's kind of like it's something that can happen, like it happens. So they are always afraid. So the bicycle mechanism can help this immensely. Everything that they've done in this world with regard to the bicycle mechanism is a huge perversion. But just, I will just answer that I was reluctant to change anything with the current settings of this mechanism because I understood that the current settings are already a response by predecessor, a response to the former king of the bicycles, a response to a very sick situation, a great perversion that occurred in Earth, because he also lived in Earth. And so the specific details of the perversion and the specific details of the situation necessitated him to set the parameters of the bicycle, to fine-tune it in a way that will help with the specific situation, which is both historical and political, and also, greatly affected by the perversion that took place on Earth. So I'm not going to change it without understanding what actually happened, because, this is like mingling with nature again and again, and things that should have not been changed to the first place. But there is no choice but to change it now. And also, this is incredibly important, so I hope I'll have the power to actually speak about it today, because this is very important. But if not, I'll only speak about it tomorrow, because this is perhaps the most important aspect of the situation. That this bicycle is not only a curiosity from the intelligent perspective or from an anthropologist perspective, it also, potentially, it can be catastrophic in international scale in Earth. Because the parameter of the bicycles and the natural, the way that it actually works, from the natural perspective of how it's maintained, it's like a bomb, in Earth, it's kind of a barrel of TNT that's waiting to explode, and this can result in the destruction of many organizations and maybe put even a whole countries under a risk of collapse. Certainly the state of Israel, and this was actually already happened in the past and can happen again and will happen again very soon. This is very important, and yes, it's incredibly related to relates very strongly to the concept of the bicycle and to the parameters, the fine-tuning of the bicycle. So I will speak about it, I hope, very, very quickly, but I need to rest because I'm losing my voice.